Hi guys. So the quote I have is Papaji. The self alone can give you happiness. All happiness is from the self. All trouble, sorrow, and suffering is from the mind. So how does one come to see this? Okay, so all trouble, sorrow, and suffering is from the mind. When one is young, one comes up with ideas or is given ideas as to what is, in this case, happiness, because he's talking about the self alone can give you happiness. If happiness for you is having wife and children, if happiness for you is having a house in the Bahamas, if happiness for you is having a career, having your own business, these are all different ideas of happiness. And in those ideas, you are trying to find that fulfillment, you know, that place of I will achieve this and then I'll be happy, even for the rest of my life. That's all I want. But that is not the case, because everything in the external world is temporary. This is why it says all trouble, sorrow, and suffering is from the mind. The mind in itself has created the idea of happiness, and these ideas come in various forms. And because you're always trying to achieve it, I don't have that job yet, I don't have that degree yet, I don't have that career yet, it creates a lot of trouble, sorrow, and suffering in you, because you are pursuing happiness in the idea that by achieving this, you will have it. And let's say you do achieve it, you do get the degree, you do get the job. That point of happiness is only temporary, because it's not something that is everlasting. It's not something that is within you. It's based on an external outcome. So when he talks about the self alone can give you happiness, the self alone in itself is happiness, because when you drop the idea that having my career, having my degree, having my job, having my business, having my house, when the idea of having these things will make you happy is dropped, then you are. So, and the moment you are, that's when it says all happiness is from the self. You are in that moment the self in the present completely. So we understand then that if we come up with ideas about happiness in this case, that will create the trouble, the sorrow, and the suffering, the idea. And that idea is coming from what Papaji says here is from the mind. The idea in itself creates unhappiness, because the moment you say, if I get this woman, I'll be happy, you've created the situation where until you have this woman, you're unhappy. At that very same moment. That is the game of duality. That is the game of the mind. We have been taught incorrectly. So when we have so many multiple different ideas of how I must have that woman, that car, that house, that job, that career, that degree, that country, that power, you create the opposite until you get it. And even when you get it, it's only temporary, because this existence in this physical realm is only temporary. When we talk about the self, we are talking about the eternal. When we talk about the self, we are talking about the everlasting, the abundant. So when he says the self alone can give you happiness, yes, because when you are in that place of essence, you realize that everything that is external from you is kind of like an added bonus. You reach a point where I am fulfilled as I am, and therefore I can now experience the world, and I can maybe achieve my degree or have this type of career or have this type of job without needing it to be happy. I am already whole. All happiness is from the self. I am already fulfilled, because I know that that job, that career, that degree, that's temporary. What is the self is eternal, everlasting. So that is when we come to understand that the self alone can give you happiness. All happiness is from the self. All trouble, sorrow, and suffering is from the mind. Because the mind has been misled into believing, into identifying, into separating the essence and identifying in this entity, this personality, this ego identity, which says, I must get that and then I'll be fulfilled, happy, complete. So the self alone can give you happiness. Thank you.